I spent countless hours working to pay for my wife's $75,000 degree after her parents refused to help. But when I discovered she was having an affair with her professor, I made sure everything fell apart for both of them. There's a moment in life when your entire world, everything you've meticulously built and believed in, just shatters. For me, it wasn't some dramatic explosion. It was a casual laugh, a nostalgic glance at an old photograph, and three utterly devastating words from the woman I loved. A lovely little fling. You see, Sarah, my wife of almost 5 years, was pursuing her master's degree. And I was right there with her, every step of the way, just like I'd always been. Years before, I'd shelled out over $75,000 for her undergraduate degree. $75,000. Why me? Because her parents, Susan and David, flat out refused to pay. They said it was pointless for a woman to get an education when she'd just get married and start a family. I mean, can you believe that mindset? These are wealthy people. Extravagant vacations, multiple homes, they spend money like water. But their daughter's future? Not worth it. When they cut her off during her sophomore year, Sarah was crushed. I couldn't stand to see her like that. So I stepped in. I worked extra jobs, put my own life on hold, just to make sure she could finish. It was tough, incredibly tough, but I believed in her. I wanted her to have the life she dreamed of. And when I saw her cross that stage at graduation, I was so proud. Every sacrifice felt worth it. Fast forward to now. She's deep into her master's program, always talking about her lecturers, her classmates. One name kept popping up, Professor James. She adored him. Said he taught her so much, that his passion was infectious, that he made even the most boring subjects fascinating. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Just a student admiring her professor, right? Then, one night, she was on the couch, sifting through an old photo album she'd pulled out of storage. I was half listening, scrolling through my phone, as she reminisced about her undergrad days. Suddenly, she let out this little giggle, like a kid with a secret. I looked over, and she was pointing at a picture of herself with a man I didn't recognize. I asked her who it was. She just grinned. Oh, that's James, my lecturer. She called him cute in the photo and said it was from a recent university event. Her tone, it just didn't sit right with me. But she laughed again, as if it were a joke. Cute? I couldn't shake the word. She shrugged, then started talking about him in a way that made my stomach absolutely churn. Not just an excellent teacher, she said, but someone so affable, so entertaining, someone she could confide in about anything. And then, it hit me like a ton of bricks. She casually dropped it, laughing like it was no big deal. She called her time with James a lovely little fling. A fling? I was shocked, perplexed. She was just sitting there, smiling, reminiscing about it like it was a harmless memory. Sarah kept talking, completely oblivious to the impact her words were having on me. She talked about how much he supported her, how he made her feel unique and recognized when she was struggling. He was self-assured, cosmopolitan, and he just understood her. Suddenly, everything started to click into place. All those times she'd come home raving about James, how she admired him. There was more to it than academics. I had been utterly blind. She even went on to say that her parents would have been absolutely incensed if they'd known about her disobedient little affair. She actually laughed about it, like it was something to be proud of. She even joked that James made her more daring, that it was a moment she'd always remember. Hearing her speak so fondly of James, after everything I had done for her, it felt like a slap in the face. I had sacrificed so much to give her opportunities her parents wouldn't. My money, my time, my effort, all for her success. And now I was learning that a casual affair with a man twice her age was part of that experience. The worst part? The way she spoke about it so nonchalantly, like it didn't matter. There was no remorse, no shame. Just nostalgia, like a cherished memory. She didn't seem to care, or even realize, how her words were tearing me apart. After a while, still smiling to herself, she closed the album and put it away. But I couldn't get her words out of my head. Adorable little fling. As if it were just another chapter in her life story. She had said it with such casualness. But to me, it felt like a betrayal. I didn't know how to process it. Was I supposed to just accept it? Or would it change my perception of her forever? The more I thought about it, the more it stung. I had trusted Sarah completely, believed in her, supported her through thick and thin. And now, hearing her talk about James like that, I started to doubt everything. Was I just a stepping stone, someone to pay for her education while she lived out her college dreams? I chose not to confront her then. I let her continue to believe everything was okay. But over the next few weeks, I started piecing things together. I knew they'd been close. Now, I needed to know the true depth of that connection. Sarah isn't exactly private with her phone, and I started looking through old documents, correspondence. There were so many pictures, emails, even saved chat logs. I felt guilty, invading her privacy like that. But with every discovery, my sense of justification grew. There were pictures of her and James outside the classroom, too intimate for a professor and student. In emails, he praised her looks, her wisdom, her enthusiasm. They were improper, yes, but not explicitly incriminating. Then, I found messages that proved their connection had become physical. At that point, I realized I was dealing with more than just a personal betrayal. This was a grave ethical transgression. James had been in a position of power over Sarah. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the exploitation of a student by an authority figure. Sarah might have dismissed it as a light-hearted college romance. But the more I uncovered, the more predatory it seemed to me. I knew I couldn't be rash. If I confronted her too quickly, Sarah would warn James, delete evidence. If I went straight to the college without enough proof, nothing might happen. So I played along. I pretended everything was fine while I gathered all the information I needed to build an ironclad case. More emails, photos, even James's remarks on an old essay Sarah had saved on her laptop. His criticism went beyond her work. He talked about appreciating their chats outside of class, calling her perspective refreshing. As I read on, it became clear James was crossing all professional boundaries. His remarks were flirtatious, intimate, far beyond simple instruction. In one email, he called their office hour conversations the highlight of his week, saying he looked forward to them. Other texts read, "You always make my day better, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation." I felt sick to my stomach. After reading these, I realized just how far they had crossed the line, even though I had trusted both. F them. Both James and Sarah had deceived me. Sarah had been given opportunities other students hadn't. I discovered she'd been given a research assistant job with James, even though her grades weren't the best in class. The university had even paid for her hotel accommodations when they flew to an academic conference together. I started to question how much of her academic achievement was earned, and how much was simply given to her because of their friendship. By the end of the year, I had everything I needed. I anonymously forwarded a comprehensive report, all the emails, pictures, notes, to the dean of the college and other higher authorities. I meticulously outlined how James's actions violated college standards, providing a clear timeline of events and specific instances of wrongdoing. I expected some fallout, but I didn't anticipate it happening so rapidly. Within weeks, an inquiry was launched. James was put on administrative leave while the college examined the facts. I'm not sure exactly what Sarah told them when she was brought in for interrogation, but it was clear she wasn't prepared for the consequences. And those consequences were dire. When the college's conclusions were made public, James was fired for egregious misconduct and barred from teaching at any public university. His reputation was ruined. I'm pretty sure he'll never work in academia again. Sarah didn't escape punishment either. The college concluded that her involvement in the relationship had compromised the integrity of her degree. Her academic distinctions were withdrawn, and she was barred from alumni networks and any future academic opportunities associated with the university. When Sarah found out, she was enraged. One evening, she came home, slamming the door, sobbing at the loss of everything she had fought so hard to achieve. She accused the college of overreacting, of being unjust. Then, she turned her anger on me. She claimed that by failing to defend her through all of this, I had destroyed both her college experience and her career. I didn't answer. I just let her vent. Let her say whatever she needed to make herself feel better. But in my heart, I knew she wasn't upset because she had been mistreated. She was upset that she had been caught, and that her actions finally had repercussions. She's still mad at me, even now. She's been aloof and cold, and I'm pretty sure our marriage is in ruins, even though I haven't yet admitted my part in exposing her and James. But I can't bring myself to feel bad. If anything, I feel a sense of justice. Sarah made decisions that had consequences, and James misused his position of authority. Still, a tiny part of me questions, did I go too far? Was I right to hold them accountable, Or did I ruin her future out of resentment? It was some months later when the inevitable confrontation happened. Things between us had been so tense, so broken, even though she didn't know I was the one who had dropped the bomb. We were constantly at odds about her actions. One day, the argument just spiraled out of control, and I told her. I was the one who reported her and James. I looked her dead in the eye and told her I had no regrets. She screamed at me, accusing me of ruining her life. And I screamed back that she was the one who destroyed mine. We didn't speak for a long time after that. Sarah continued to play the victim, making me out to be the villain who had somehow harmed her. I couldn't understand why she couldn't see that I was the one in pain. Then, one evening, she approached me. I wasn't ready to talk. I made it clear I didn't want to hear anything she had to say. I didn't want another fight. But she wouldn't let it go. She started with her usual excuses. You don't understand me. Everyone is against me. I needed you at my side. She claimed I had abandoned her, that she needed my support. I was stunned. After what she had done to me, all I could say was that I was no longer on her side. She had cheated, and I couldn't just ignore it. She tried to clarify. I had to do it, she said, if I wanted to advance. That's the way it is. I was sickened, absolutely sickened. How could she believe that was acceptable? Why did she think that was the only path to success? She was competent, intelligent, diligent. She didn't have to have an affair with her professor to succeed. But rather than realizing her own worth, she believed this was the necessary course of action. I told her I couldn't even look at her. Her attitude, her behavior, it disgusted me. Her inability to recognize how wrong it all was made everything worse. She wasn't guilty. She didn't regret what she had done. I had been deceived, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't just let that go. Then she got up and tried to turn the tables on me. She accused me of being patronizing, speculating that I must have also exploited my subordinates. I was enraged. I had never done anything like that, and I wasn't about to let her project her twisted worldview onto me. I made it clear her claim was completely false. I told her I would never behave the way she did, and she should stop thinking that way. It dawned on me then. If she thought it was okay to cheat to succeed, perhaps this wasn't the first time she had done this. I asked her point blank, and to my utter shock, she acknowledged that she had engaged in similar behavior before. I couldn't stay in that house. I couldn't be with someone who had that kind of mindset, who couldn't see how morally reprehensible her actions were. Being in the same vicinity as her was unbearable. I packed my belongings and immediately went to my parents' place. I couldn't continue to act like everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I told my parents everything when I arrived. They were shocked, of course, but they didn't judge me. They understood I needed time to process it all and decide what to do. More than anything, I was grateful for their support. I lived with them for about 3 months. Sarah called and messaged constantly, telling me I was overreacting. She genuinely didn't get why I was so angry. How could she be so oblivious to the pain she had caused me? I ignored her calls and texts. Each time I saw a message, I just got more furious. Why was she still so ignorant? She truly pretended like nothing was wrong. She believed I was being overly emotional, but I couldn't get over what she did. I couldn't pretend everything was all right when it absolutely wasn't. I finally made the decision to return home, but not to reconcile. Sarah started yelling at me the moment I walked through the door. She accused me of abandoning her when she needed me most. Then, unbelievably, she started talking about her parents, Susan and David, claiming they had emotionally abused her and that I needed to talk to them, assure them she'd done nothing wrong. She wanted me to let them know that since I was back, everything was fine. It was truly unbelievable. She was trying to manipulate the situation, and it was obvious she was still in denial. So, I asked her, why would I do that? It was hard to maintain my composure. She seemed completely indifferent to the fact that she had injured me. Rather, she just kept saying it didn't matter because I was back now, and we had figured it out. But I told her nothing had been resolved, and I was certain it never would be. Her expression fell when I told her I wanted a divorce. She was utterly taken aback, as though I had never said anything like it before. But it felt like the only choice left to me. The trust was shattered. It could never be restored. I was done fighting. I went upstairs to my room, hoping for some space. But Sarah wasn't giving up. She barged into my room, saying, "You can't just drop a bomb like that on me." She continued with her usual justifications, saying it was unjust, wondering why I couldn't just forgive her. "You're being harsh," she said. I assured her that I wasn't the one being unjust. I reminded her, in a way I never would have imagined I'd say to her, that she had cheated on me several times. She had violated my confidence. I told her she ought to have considered what was unfair when she decided to cheat on me, before trying to explain it away now. But she tried to defend her behavior again, claiming it wasn't actually cheating. She said it was something she had to do, that she was just trying to advance. I felt nauseous hearing her say that. I told her I no longer gave a damn. I had had enough of her justifications. I just wanted a divorce and to get out. She began to cry. She pleaded with me to reconsider, assuring me we could make things right. She apologized, but it was insufficient. The harm had been done. I could no longer trust her. I couldn't continue to act as though nothing was wrong. I moved out the very next week, finding a small flat. It wasn't an easy choice, but I knew it was the right one. It was time to move on. I had already filed for divorce, and I was just waiting to hear from my attorney. Sarah didn't stop contacting me. Calls, texts. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't feel like I owed her anything. I didn't want to talk to her. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Even her parents called a few times, trying to persuade me to reconsider. They told me I was making a big mistake, that I should be more sympathetic to Sarah. They even tried to intimidate me, but I refused to listen. I cut them off. That kind of pressure is not something I need in my life. Even if I was still processing things, I knew I had to put myself first. It's been a while since I've talked about this, because my attorneys advised me to avoid social media and discussing the divorce online. But now, I think I'm in a place to give an update. I'm legally divorced. The process was exhausting and time-consuming. Sarah initially didn't want the divorce. We tried to settle privately, but when that failed, we had to go to court. Even there, Sarah tried to convince everyone that she had done nothing wrong. She claimed her actions weren't a mistake, that it was simply the way she had always thought things should be. Even then, she tried to defend her behavior. But I had all the proof. So, the divorce was finalized. Everything was divided in half, and I didn't have to pay alimony, which was a relief. A few weeks after the divorce, Sarah sent me an email. She told me she'd been seeing a therapist, and that she had a lot to work on. She finally acknowledged the wrongness of her actions and expressed regret for causing me so much suffering. She said she was sorry for everything. She claimed to still love me, didn't expect me to forgive her, and pledged not to contact me again. Honestly, reading that email felt odd. I simply thanked her for the apologies in my response. That was all. It wasn't about my yearning for closure anymore. It was more important to recognize that she had at least acknowledged her mistakes. I didn't think I needed to say anything more. It's finished now. I still find the entire event strange. I had known Sarah for 18 years. I truly believed we would grow old together. And now, I feel as though a chapter of my life has come to an end, and I'm beginning over. I didn't anticipate this sense of emptiness that exists. But, secretly, I know this is the best course of action for me. There's no turning back. Too much had changed, and the trust was irrevocably shattered. I'm making an effort to adapt to life following the divorce. Some days are harder than others, but I am certain that I am doing what's morally right for myself. I don't regret my choice, even though it was difficult. The process was long and emotionally taxing, but I'm making an effort to focus on the future. And I have to say, it feels like a fresh start.